The last time I seen Mr. Williams was in January of 2007, the day I was arrested. I was at Confederation Building with my signs, my Newfoundland flag over my shoulders, and my handouts. Mr. Williams stopped in his truck in front of Confederation Building, took out his cell phone, got on the phone, and within an hour I was arrested by the Newfoundland Constabulary and charged with defamatory libel in January of 2007. Now it's June of 2007, and the provincial prosecutors say they want it till June the 28th because they are considering dropping the charges again. I've accomplished now getting myself arrested, but again, they are getting rid of the case, and I had to go back and start again in September, but this time again in Ottawa with my handouts, and just start to try and get someone or someone's attention to get justice again for myself, my family, and hope to prevent this from happening again. We have a change of faces, but the corruption continues. And everyone ignores it because they are protecting and covering up for one of their own, who they placed on a pedestal so it would give them more credibility and cover up what they've actually done.
What is Alex Hickman doing now? Is he retired?
He's retired Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. He's in 2001 made a member of the Order of Canada. In 2001, the Grand Bank Courthouse was called the T. Alec Hickman Building.
So it's the Supreme Court of Newfoundland that he was Chief Justice of.
Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Newfoundland.
And what about Bill Matthews?
Bill Matthews, when we were children, Bill Matthews and his friends, Jim Tesser, Rick Tesser, the mayor's sons, Red Fizzard, Frank Red Fizzard, another teacher in Grand Bank, Albert Andrigan, who's now a finance worker, and Herrick Butler, who's now a real estate man. They all, from 1967 until 71, drove around Grand Bank in an old green Chrysler. They hung out together at Tesser's cabin. They terrorized Grand Bank for a period of 4 or 5 years. These were young university students and teachers and business people who continued to not only pick up and abuse my sister, but many other young children in Grand Bank as well, and bring them to Tesser's cabin. These fellows, once they found out that my sister's child was owned by the justice minister, knew instantly they had immunity and would never be charged for what they were doing to any children in Grand Bank, because how could they be charged when the justice minister had already done it to a 12-year-old child themselves, and the child already born and living in that town. So they continued to gang rape my sister and others at Tesser's cabin outside Grand Bank for a period of 4 or 5 years, in which time my sister was pregnant numerous times. She'd had 3 miscarriages and 2 other children from 1967 until 1971. This child, from 12 years old until 16 years old, had 3 children and 3 miscarriages, pregnant every single year. A teacher in grade 9, his name was Duncan Ford. Duncan Ford is from Bonavista. Duncan was my teacher as well, one of the best teachers I'd ever had. He was into sports, and he liked cars and things, and we had things in common, and he was a good person. Duncan said to my sister in grade 9, because she was pregnant again, he said, "Suzanne, hasn't anyone ever told you about birth control?" She got mad, got up and left class, and went home and told our mother what her teacher said to her, Duncan Ford. And Mr. Ford was staying at a Captain Follett's house in Grand Bank. When he went home after school to his boarding house, our mother went to the boarding house, knocked the door, and asked to see our teacher, Duncan Ford. Duncan came to the door. Because he'd asked my sister if she was ever told about birth control, my mother said, "Did you say that to Suzanne?" And he said, "Yes, ma'am." She hauled off with a fist and punched that teacher right square in the mouth and turned and walked away. Nothing was ever done about it, and Duncan just let it go and said no more about it himself and ignored Suzanne, and she had the child and came back to school, and that was that. But when our mother adopted the child from Hickman, she just outwardly let everyone know in the town who owned the child and what had happened. The principal, Mr. May, the principal of the elementary school at the time was Mr. Fraser Oakley. He knew about it. When we got to the high school, Mr. May, after Suzanne got pregnant with Aaron, the second child, from Matthews and his bunch of hooligans at the cabin, Mr. May didn't want a child in grade 9 pregnant. She'd had problems previously with being toxic with the child from Hickman. So Mr. May had sent a letter home asking our mother if she could keep her sister out of school until after she'd had the baby. Our mother promptly went to Mr. May's office at the high school and told him if he wanted to be teaching or have a job the following week and didn't want Alec Hickman on his case, that he would shut his mouth and let Suzanne go to school as long as she wanted to. So for the second child, Aaron, Suzanne went to school the entire time, got out, had the baby Aaron, and went back and wrote her exams, and there wasn't anything Mr. May could do about it. A year later at that school, myself and Junior Emberley were in a Christmas play. Junior is from a very large family as well, and so was I. During the play, Junior and I did an improv session and put pillows inside and pretended to be pregnant. When I started to talk about what was going on at my family, Mr. May promptly got on the stage at the John Burke High School and marched Junior and I directly to the office. I was no longer to be in any school plays, and I was no longer permitted to be on the high school newspaper staff. I basically lost my privileges except for sports. I was allowed to go in the gymnasium. Cover up even from my high school teachers and from the high school in every way possible. I was a writer on the newspaper staff. I performed in all the plays and anything from the glee club that I could be. I wanted to be a part of the town. I wanted to have friends. I wanted to be somebody in the town as normal as anyone else. I didn't want anyone to know what was happening, even though they all knew. I just wanted to be as normal as I could. The system wouldn't allow that, and all they wanted was to cover up, and it's still the same to this very day. All I want to do is be able to exist and know that tomorrow I have a place to sleep and my son has a place to come home to. I know I'm never going to amount to anything. I know I'm never going to accumulate anything. I just like to be able to live and be left alone. These people won't allow me that. They won't allow me to exist. And now they've forced me to keep doing this, and I'll do it till my last breath. I have no choice for myself and every other person that could end up the same as I am. I hope and pray every day that this ends. Either my life ends or else this fight ends and there's justice served for someone.